Welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast. Today we have Dave Mendicino, former counselor, as my co-host, and we're talking to Gathering Place representatives, the chairman of the board, Peter Gregory, and the operations manager, Alicia Smith. We're going to talk about the hole that was dug for the soup kitchen, how they dug themselves into a hole, and how they're digging themselves out of it financially with reductions of staff and services and a focus in on their main mandates, single meal a day, and they do some deliveries to people that can't get there. But we look into the whole circumstances about how that happened, the money that was supposed to be sent to CRA from the payroll deductions that appeared in the budget to be money that they could use, and they did, and they shouldn't have, and now they know. So we're going to do all that, but before that, we're going to go to our title sponsor, Voyager Aviation.
Founded in 1968, Voyager Aviation is a proud member of our community, providing worldwide aviation services from our headquarters right here in North Bay. If you're looking for a challenge, change, or want to expand your current career in aviation, Voyager is hiring for a wide range of technical and non-technical roles, including pilots, aircraft maintenance personnel, corporate administration, machinists, supply chain professionals, and more. Be part of a workforce that is over 400 strong, supporting humanitarian, government, defense, and civil aviation operations around the world. For a career in aviation and beyond, learn more about open positions and career paths at voyav.com.
Dave's a former counselor, and he's co-hosting with me as Scott's out of action there this week. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Today we have Gathering Place representatives, Alicia Smith, who's the operational manager, and Peter Gregory, who's the chair of the board. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I know you guys have been rolling up your sleeves and trying to get out of a little hole that was something that's put you back, and it was in the news quite a bit there a little while ago. Dave, thanks for bringing the guests in and the topic. I'm going to give you the first question.
Well, I mean, it's as you just said, the Gathering Place has been in the news quite a bit lately, and they've been doing a lot of work in the last little while to kind of right the ship, if you will. And I guess maybe start with Peter. Maybe can you maybe get into some of the things that have been going on recently? I mean, maybe start from the cutting back of the meals and kind of what status is that at, and kind of where we stand today with all that.
Okay, thanks, Dave. We're doing 5 meals a week now, from 11:30 to 2:30. And so the people are coming in the doors. We had to do that in order to cut our costs. Our overhead was way too high, and the annual salaries that we were paying out was astronomical. So we had to take a look at that. So we've trimmed back the labor force as well. We've got 5 and 2 right now. We got 5 full time and 2 part time on staff, and then the rest is volunteers. This is a volunteer type of industry. We want to get away from paying wages. It just makes sense. So we've got a good volunteer base, and Alicia can talk about that after. But our volunteers are what's saving us a lot of money. But we were paying too many dollars out for staffing before this. And the biggest staff we had was for the warming center. And so we're not doing the warming center anymore. We've turned that back to the city of North Bay. And so we've been able to reduce the wages an awful lot. I'm not going to get into numbers, but probably at least 3/4 of our wage pool now is down. So we're only paying 25% now. So it's in a better position for us. Where we need to grow better is with volunteerism, and we're trying to do that now, and with the people of North Bay, and it seems to be working. We're putting new programs in for the volunteers, and we're just trying to move forward. That's the biggest idea I want to get across today. We want to keep our doors open. We as a board are determined to do that, and we as a staff are determined to work as a team to make this happen. And I feel good about what's going on out there and that we can move forward. But of course, like every other business, we need dollars. So that's where we need the citizens of North Bay to step up and help us do what we're trying to do. And I think, I don't know how to go on, but I really think that we're trying to change our image. We want to be more open. We want to be more inclusive. But we want to have transparency there, too. And one of the biggest issues we heard when we put out there about our troubles with the CRA, and I don't want to dwell on that, was that we weren't, they were wondering about where the money was going, whether the staff was getting paid too many dollars. That was the idea was floated out there. And then we saw in there also that nobody showed our books. So they weren't available to the public. And so I'm proud to say now our books are on our website. And if anybody wants to go look at them, I think we got from 2015 on now. So if you want to look at them, go ahead. But it's not a pretty picture. We want to change that. We want to be a better business than what we were, and we're going to treat this as a business. And I really don't think that we have done that. We did that before, and I think that's what we have to do, and that's our utmost push that we're trying to do that right now.
I thought some of the financial issues were because of not paying payroll tax, and that the services were overextended to fill a gap in the community, and that the warming center was actually supposed to be funded from DSEP. Am I missing something?
Okay, so you're correct. For the whole year of 2022, we failed to pay payroll remittance. What happened was, I'm not going to get excuses, but too many people doing the books that year. I think we changed 3 people, and so it wasn't passed on. So it got missed. Now, it got missed with the bookkeeper. It got missed with the accountants. It got missed with our own people inside. How it happened, I don't know. I haven't even figured that one out yet. But that was a real problem, and it was lots of money. And so we're paying that off right now. But it did come from the warming center, a lot of that, and it's a very uncomfortable position for us because I believe we really should have caught some of it, and we didn't. And so we failed at it. So we accept the blame. We say, yes, we blew it, and we made mistakes. But that's the type of thing that we've corrected now. We now have a bookkeeper not attached to our to the gathering place. We have our accountants working hard with us now that they were before, but they're looking for more things now to make sure we don't make the same type of mistake. And we're working in-house to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So, yeah, we made the mistake. We're going to learn from it. We're going to grow from it. And, yeah, we're going to pay the debt. We're determined to do that. Mm-hmm. But it did cause some real financial crisis, and that's why we had to cut back.
Well, that's good. I just wanted to make sure that we had the full picture we're talking about that's leading you into this direction where you're going to be streamlined as far as services provided, as well as more volunteer-based rather than reducing your need for revenue. Of course, we all know that Dennis Chippo was the executive director. He's no longer with you. And there's probably a lot of different circumstances there. And you're thinking about operating a little bit differently than now, rather than have an executive director.
We're looking at, as a board, we had another meeting again last night. We're wondering if we need an executive director, and,
right.
and I don't want to make this whole show about that, but
yeah, I just want to get it out of the way so we can talk about the future.
Right on. So I believe that because we are donation-based, I believe that we need to have somebody in there really doing a very good job at raising the funds, doing different things around this city to raise funds and making more awareness about the gathering place. We want to make the gathering place a home for everybody that wants to come in, but we also want to make it very open to the public, and we haven't done that in the past. So we want to be there, but to help everybody, but we want to have an open image rather than what we were doing. We're serving a lot of people still, but it's not always about that, and I think Alicia's going to touch on that in a little while.
I'm curious, how many lunches are you providing during the course of the day now?
It depends on the time of the month. It can usually range anywhere between, at our lowest, we see about 60, and at our highest, we probably see currently about 110. Oh, okay. That's just the folks who are coming to the kitchen. We do have some, I guess we could classify it as outreach work that we do, where we have partnered with some agencies, and they are relying on us to provide food for their clientele. So we would probably, on top of the maximum 110 that we get coming to our kitchen, I would say there's probably on the daily at least anywhere between 20 to 50 additional people where food is going out into the community.
Alicia, you've been with the Gathering Place for about 4 years, and you have background working for the CMHA. Maybe let us know a little bit more of your insight into working with the community.
So like you said, I've done case management for about 12 years with the CMHA. I've also done supervision at drop-in shelters for homeless folks and people struggling with mental health and addictions. Jumped over to the Gathering Place about 4 years ago. And when I was first hired on to the Gathering Place, it was actually as the outreach coordinator. And as somebody who did case management for a large part of my career, I saw the struggle of how difficult it was for people who are struggling with food insecurity to access food. And that just didn't sit right with me. I firmly believe in the mission of the Gathering Place to provide a hot meal in a warm environment, and it starts with food. It's a basic right to be able to eat. It's a fundamental right for anyone to be able to eat, and there should not be barriers dependent on a person's circumstance of how they access that food. Spent a couple of years building this outreach program. We were at a different location than where we were. We were located out of Worthington. It was a partnership with CMHA, actually. They graciously provided us the space where we could do our outreach services. And in our glory days with outreach, we were up to about 500 people, unique individuals every week that we were providing outreach services to. And that was us having to turn folks away because we just couldn't keep up with the demand.
Was that through COVID? Or?
I was hired on during the COVID years. Okay. So through COVID, it was a much smaller scale of what we were doing. We were going out to, we had partnered with the Allianz Center in Sturgeon Falls and with the Mattawa Food Bank as well. And we were bringing meals out to those communities. We probably had about 100 families and individuals out there that we were serving. And then once we kind of got through the COVID slump, we were able to open up our services more. So it was partnerships with agencies and just opening it up to the general public, anyone who identifies as struggling with food insecurity. Hey, we got you. We're here for you. And we also had a delivery route for folks who were struggling with mobility, whether it was because they were seniors or had physical ailments stopping them from getting out of the house, or if they were like on house arrest and literally weren't allowed to leave their house. We were hitting a large target, a large population of North Bay of people who were struggling.
And maybe just so the public is aware, the breakdown of how many of your clients actually do have a roof over their head but are struggling putting food on the table, and how many of your clients are actually homeless?
I would say it's a pretty equal split. I know kind of the stigma and what people think about what we do is primarily and strictly homeless individuals. Certainly, I would say at least probably between 50 to 60% of our population is homeless. Doesn't matter. They are just as deserving as a meal, whether they have a roof over their head or not.
Maybe more so.
Maybe more so. But at least 40% of our population is students, working class poor, families struggling to provide to put food on their table for their kids at home.
And the elderly.
Yeah. It's not just the homeless who are struggling with food insecurity. And I'm very proud to say that we are very low barrier, and it's no questions asked. Like, if you're struggling, you come to us. We're going to do our best to greet you with a smile and remember who you are and make sure we're checking in with you and fill your stomach with food. So
There's some people that feel that there's a large percentage of international students using the service that in the food bank. Is that true, or what percentage would that be?
I would say in the past years, we did have, when we were open for dinner, we would see an increase in international students. When I say an increase, I would, maybe between 10 to 20 students during the dinner service. Now that we are only open for lunch service, we have seen a dramatic drop-off of those students using our services. But on the flip side, it's kind of nice because we do see those students coming in and volunteering their time to us when they're able to.
It's gratifying to see that.
There was one thing about the recent in the news, and this one we first contacted you to come in, was when the proposal was made to DSAB and it was refused because of the lack of some type of accounting reports of some sort. Has that been cleared up, or are you ever going to go back to DSAB for another ask?
Okay, so what I was asked to go there, and I went, and I was told to bring my ask. That's all I was told to do. So that's what I went with. And then when we got there to the DSAB meeting, I was challenged why I didn't bring the books and why we didn't do that by certain counselors. And so I told them straight. The counselor had asked me to go there, just told me to bring the ask. So I wasn't prepared. I got to be honest with you. Maybe I should have been. I don't know. But coming back to they had the books for 2022 already, and we'd already submitted it. But what we were going through at that time, just prior to that, was an audit, not a regular audit, but a step up of 2023. Now, it had just been done, and we hadn't presented it to them yet. I don't think we had. So they've got it now. And to be honest with you, I'm proud to say we're working on 23, 24 now. So, and we hope to have that out to the public and to ourselves by the end of December. Our year end is the end of June. So that's in ample time. Before we were way behind for different reasons. So again, thinking of this as a business, we're trying to run it that way, and we know that we have to get those audited financials done. So we're working very hard with the auditors to get it done because it's the best thing to do. That's what businesses do.
Just to be clear about the warming center part of it, and I don't know what's happening this year. You guys aren't involved with the warming center at all this year?
No, but it's going down to the
crisis center.
It's at Northern Pines this year,
Northern
right?
Pines, yes.
Right. And they're running it on their own, or the crisis center maybe is running it?
They're running it. The crisis center is running it for DSAB.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the warming center last year, is it safe to say that the business, the clientele, far exceeded your initial estimates? Is that and that's kind of what got the ball rolling, if you will?
I'll let Alicia handle that.
So what kind of drove the expenses up for the warming center last year? In previous years, we were kind of maxing out at about seeing 40 to 50 clients in a day. Last year, we were seeing about 90 clients in a day, and a lot of new faces, a lot more security struggles and safety struggles that were coming with these new faces into the warming center. Obviously, if you have an increased clientele, you need an increased staff. And if you have an increased safety and security concern, you need increased security. supplies, like everything goes up, right? Like so my understanding through communication with our contract holders was like we were able to do what we needed to do to meet those needs. So it did drive our budget over than what was originally agreed upon.
But the contractor didn't take up the extra costs, like the DSAB? That's what we're talking about, right?
I don't know how much in depth we want to go into.
I think that's been reported, right? It's been in the media that there was a shortfall there.
Yeah,
right. So
definitely a shortfall.
You can read what you will into that. I mean, it's interesting that you talk about your clientele. I mean, sitting on the DSAB board last term. I mean, I know their clientele very, very well. It's a similar clientele, is it not?
It's the same
basically?
clientele.
So it's interesting. We talk about moving forward, and I've talked about this before, where sitting on the board of DSAB last term, we were getting presentations on the warming center. We need to serve the warming center. We need to serve the gathering place. We need to serve. Provide services, to the same clientele. And, I'm looking at DSAB now, and they're talking about this hub, which will require services that the gathering place provides. And I'm wondering, moving forward, and then you throw the food bank into the whole equation. Has there been any talk about discussions with these entities? Like how many? Like the hub is going to require the service that you provide. The food bank covers the same clientele. I mean, it's all the same clientele. Like moving forward.
The food bank doesn't cover the same clientele, however, because in order to access the food bank, you do need to have some sort of documentation that shows you have an address.
Right.
So yeah, certainly there is crossover, but we're kind of, we serve the clientele that can't access the food bank. So the homeless community, right? So yeah, some crossover of clientele, but also our different.
As you said earlier, no barriers as far as
Well, before we continue with our discussion about the gathering place, the politics, and their other issues, as well as how they're going to be able to provide the services that I think should be provided by DSAB and the social services programs, I want to talk about one of the sponsors that make these podcasts possible, and that's Casey's Restaurants. Longtime restaurant in North Bay, great reputation. Everybody that goes through can see it from the bypass, very easy to get to, and good food, good people. But very important to us is to have these sponsors for the podcast so that we can talk to people in the community about the important issues that are in the community. I have been to Casey's more often this year than I normally have because I'm all over the place. But Casey's has a consistent menu, and you're going to get a good service. I like their bar area, lots of good TVs. You can go off to the side. I actually went there to meet up with a bunch of the guys that with the Illegals hockey team. They go there after their ice time on Fridays. They get a couple tables together, usually about 10 or 15 guys, and they love it there. They go there all the time. So check it out if you haven't. If you haven't been there for a while, go back and see how they've done. It's a perfect spot to unwind, catch up with friends, savor great flavors, and don't miss out on the fun. Join us at Casey's for a weekend filled with good food, great drinks, and even better company.
North Bay Echo is proud to partner with Twigs Coffee Roasters, a part of the community since 1995. Twigs offers a wide selection of quality beans, fresh roasted in-house every day. Find your favorite specialty drinks at our espresso bar. Rejuvenate with freshly squeezed juice, or treat yourself to mouth-watering selections from our gourmet deli. And don't forget our irresistible fresh baked goods, including uncompromising gluten-free options. Twigs has 5 locations to serve you, from North Bay to Sturgeon Falls to Sudbury. Order line for pickup at twigs.ca. And coming soon, you'll be able to order fresh roasted coffee beans direct to your doorstep from our distribution center in North Bay.
I guess I'm an old school type of socialist, but like when I originally started covering the Gathering Place when it was first created, not far from the Nugget down the road, it was just over at the old taxi stand, and I've seen it grow and go through different fits and changing location, which I never did understand that location as a choice. But there's a lot of things I don't understand, and there's probably a lot of moving parts there. But the one up on Castles just seems like an odd place to have people lining up to go into a place with just a sidewalk. And I've always watched the overlaps and the underlaps of the food bank and the churches and the different things going on, and Salvation Army, and it's. I always thought that the Gathering Place Soup Kitchen was a great volunteer-run model for a meal a day to be a stopgap for reducing poor nutrition and starvation, really, for those who just didn't qualify or didn't fit the other models. But I always thought when it was expanding, I saw it expanding in different services. I thought, well, it's really filling in the gaps of what I consider a social services administration, which is having troubles meeting all its needs, right? And so more and more it's been put on the back of the community and the volunteers to provide a provincial mandated services for social services. And I never thought that was right, because there's an end, there's a maximum amount of volunteerism and dollars that can be raised in the community, and we're already doing very similar stuff through taxation for social services. So I've always been a big component of, yes, volunteerism for the stopgaps and the very base minimum, but anything above and beyond that, our social services administration should be taking care of that through provincial funding. Of course, I know that there's more nuances involved with that and the changes in different governments and policies and strategies, which is a shame because it falls back on the people that need it, which is so I look at what you're doing right now is right-sizing for the right reasons, and DSAB and other DSABs across the province are going to have to figure out a way to incorporate the basic needs stuff that should be part of the programming, right? I'm not sure.
The biggest problem we have there is there's no money available for food insecurity. And that's from provincial government, it's from federal government, that's from municipal government. We get our share from DSAB once a year. Now, I don't want to talk about the figure, I don't think, but it's not a lot of money. And we're supposed to run that operation with that. That's why we're trying to do a lot of fundraising. That's why we've done a lot in the past. But they don't recognize, I'm really amazed that they don't recognize food insecurity. And that's our biggest issue. There should be some funding there for it, but there's not.
Well, it should be public what the DSAP provides you for food insecurity and what your overall budget's going to be going forward.
I think I remember the number as a board member. If you want me to say,
go ahead.
If I'm incorrect,
well,
you can say it's $50,000.
$50,000.
Right.
That's it. Yeah.
But
and
again,
that was how many years ago?
Well, I'm going back to 2019, and that's so that comes from. I'm probably going to get the name wrong. There's a community fund, which is funded by the municipalities, but administered through DSAP, and you apply every year, and it's not a lot of money, $300,000 or $400,000. The Gathering Place does get a good chunk of it, but still. It's the same amount of money.
That's on property taxes from municipalities.
I believe that was a municipal fund. If I recall correctly, it is a municipal fund, right?
So,
yeah.
Again, a social service or program funded through municipal property tax instead of provincial.
Correct.
Well, I'm just an advocate that overhead is expensive, and that if you have a province already doing social services, they should finish the job. That's my position. I know it's not really. I know that that doesn't change things just by stating it.
No, I wish it did.
Yeah, but tell us, so going forward, let's talk about, because you're going to base it on volunteerism, and it's going to be on the very minimal as far as program goes. What is needed to run that going forward as far as just providing one meal 5 times a week?
Well, our overhead cost is roughly around $40,000 a month. So that's to cover the building, cover the wages, cover everything we do inside, provide the what did I do this morning? Food pickup.
Right.
Go out there.
Yeah, to go and get the food donated from grocery stores and stuff like that.
See, our cost is not the cost of food is not a big thing for us. That's not the problem. The issue is paying the property taxes, paying for the building, paying for the wages, that and just the general running of the building. That's where the cost is. And there's no way of getting around that because you got to house it and you got to have employees. And I think we've done a good job. I believe we've done a good job on the number of employees you got running it now compared to what we were before. Like we're lean and mean, and those people are working a good 8 hours when they're in there, and the employees. And I think that they deserve a pat in the back, and we're functioning very well with that number of employees. So I'm very pleased with what we're doing.
Would it be a benefit to have all these type of programs housed in one central location and maybe still run through a volunteer agency? Does that help? Because, of course, we've talked about it numerous times. It just seems cruel to have people having to travel around all over the city to just get by. If you're stopping by the food bank for your family once a month, and then you got to pick up, go eat once a day just to make rent and heat. And then to have them have to do the circuit around town. Right?
Yeah, and then this is what I was getting at earlier. I mean, as far as efficiencies and these, the clientele themselves moving around, we know that DSAB is applied for funding for this hub, which is everyone providing the services under all one location. And I've wondered the same thing: is there a role for the gathering place in that? Considering that the clientele is virtually the same. I mean, this place would also have no barriers, right?
It would get away from your expense of a mortgage and property tax anyways.
Well, and that's true. Whether what they've done over at the low barrier shelter now, the Pines, Northern Pines, it's yet to be seen. I don't even know if they've opened their doors yet.
Today, actually, I believe.
Okay.
So
they're just finishing up some fire code stuff, I think.
Yeah, so they were supposed to open the first of the month, I think, and so they're opening now. So we'll see. Their purpose, I believe, is to service a clientele that are going to stay there. So in other words, if they go in for the day, they'll be able to stay there that night in a low barrier shelter. That's the way I interpret.
Well, that's the kind of concept of the hub, right? You can you're going to be able to go under one location, so you can sleep there, a warming center,
Correct.
Food, and the last piece would be professionals such as CMHA and the hospital providing services if the clientele wants it. Right?
Yeah, and I agree. But again, I believe there's 24 beds and 34 seats in the cafeteria, whatever you want to call it, the restaurant, the building there. So there's a lot more people in town that need that, and so it's going to fill a certain void. But I don't think it's going to fill the whole void, and that's where we come in. The other thing is, a lot of people don't understand, but people don't want to stay in that type of environment. They don't want to sleep there. They're not comfortable there. There's fears there of staying under that type of roof. So they're out there sleeping under the sun or the stars, I should say, and in tents and whatever else. That's why the encampments are there. I don't know if you're going to change that mentality anytime soon. There's a lot of encampments in this town now, and a lot of people staying there because they want to protect what they own. Most of them can carry their worldly goods themselves. That's how little they have. But the other side of the coin is there's a fear there that they could get hurt. And I don't know why it stems that way, but that's the way it is. So that clientele, those people, will not go inside the low-barrier shelter to sleep at night.
Well, that's something a lot of people don't understand. They assume that the person that's sleeping out in the tent just doesn't want to follow rules and not do hard drugs in front of people and not be able to smoke and drink as they want. That's the perception out there. If they don't want to freak hot with a roof, why are we worried if they're making that choice, right? And other people don't understand. Some of them do have little pets. Some of them have issues that make it difficult for them to make that choice, and do have trauma-linked issues with being in crowds and unprotected, and they feel safer elsewhere.
And see, we're lucky in this room. We don't have those issues. We don't have I don't like to think that. We don't have the problem with mental illness the way that some of these people do, and how they handle it.
Certainly not to the degree that some people do.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking at you, Dan. No, I'm joking. Anyways, but the other side of the coin is the fear. There's a lot of people, because of mental illness, have fears, and how do you get rid of that? And there's other people that are drug addicted. There's other alcoholics out there that don't want to be around people because they could get their booze. Seriously, alcoholism and drug addiction is a big part of this city. Whether we want to face it or not, it's an issue here, and it is everywhere else. But how do you handle those people? So they come to our place because we try to be warm to them. We try to appreciate that they're there. We try to give them extra food, extra gloves, extra mitts, socks when they need it. That's the type of service we're providing. And I was just talking to a chap before we came here, and I was out doing food recovery and came back, and he came up to the back of my truck and he says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Sure, why not?" So we got talking, and he lives on the street because he's comfortable there. And he just said straight out, and I don't even know if this guy had an addiction problem because he seemed very level-headed when I was speaking to him. But people are not trusting today. I don't know what's happening in society, but it's not the trusting society that I knew as a kid. It really is changing. And so they're not trying to participate in it. They're trying to be outside of that for their own comfort, for their own safety.
Yeah, the hobo life, right?
Yeah.
It's appealing to people that have lost that trust and don't feel like they fit in, and hell, I feel that way sometimes myself.
But see, the normal person doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
And the normal person doesn't understand about addictions.
The average person, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah. Good point. But that's the problem. So how do you get them to understand? I don't know if they'll ever understand.
Yeah, no.
But that's where acceptance comes in, right?
Right.
We have to accept everybody.
Everybody's on a different spectrum of understanding where their place is, and the acknowledging and accepting others for the situations we're in, and not being too judgmental. And it's easy to be judgmental when you're sitting at a place where it's a little warmer, and you're working hard for your food, and you think everybody else should be too, right? And people realize that there are barriers to people holding even the most basic jobs that make it almost impossible for them to do what average to below average people can do, right? Is hold a job, pay bills, and just sort of work away at it. It's a tough situation, and it's getting even more complicated. What else would you like people to know about what you're doing now and going forward that is important, and how can they help? We want to let the people of North Bay know our doors are open. Like, there's rumors out there we're going bankrupt and all that. It's a challenge financially. So let's be honest. Let's put the cards on the table. It's going to be a challenge for a while. Until we get our debt out of line, it's going to be that way. But we're determined as a board, as a team inside, to keep our doors open and work for the benefit of the citizens that come in our doors. It's not going to be easy, but we're up for the challenge, and we're, again, looking at all aspects of the business and cutting costs. We've been able to cut a lot of costs inside
are placed by the team suggesting this. And I want to say team. They suggest this. We look at it. If it makes sense, we do it. And we've been dropping some bills $500 a month and $600 a month by just making changes within inside. So we're doing our part to do that. We want to keep our doors open. We see the need for North Bay Lake. There was questions out there whether there was a need or whether our doors should be open. Yeah, there definitely is a need. Nobody's going to pick up the slack that we're doing right now because it's just not available in the city. We can't let these people not have food. It just doesn't make any sense, you know? So we're determined to do that, but we need funding. So our cry out to the people is help us. We'll help you, you help us, and we'll carry on. I don't know what else I can say on that.
Well, quick question to that, and I think it's right before Alicia, if you can add to it. But some people will think, well, how much money, if I donate, goes into this black hole of CRA? What will it take to get you out of Hawk with the CRA? And how much is that monthly? And can people look at their donation? Like, that money wasn't just evaporated. It actually paid for services that you didn't have funding for. That's the better way to put it, right? Like, there's no indication that the money disappeared for nefarious reasons. It's just that you paid for programs and services that went beyond your budgeted, right? So basically, donations to the Gathering Place are just still donations to a good cause, and it's not a financial impropriety.
And you're right on the money. There was no misappropriation of funds. Yeah. We checked everything. We went through everything just to make sure. We knew that, but we wanted to make sure. And we had our accounts. We work with our accounts.
So people that are donating to you now know it's not just to fill in it was a budgeting error, not anything else.
Correct. And money was well spent. But we did, as companies do when they get a little bit extra money, we did spend a little frivolously. But again, it was to the benefit of the people that were coming in our doors. It wasn't
Define frivolously. What kind of thing were you talking about? Because
people we bought a truck. Okay.
Pardon me?
We bought a truck.
Oh, okay.
And it was to do the outreach. And we could have figured out another way of doing it other than going that.
Right.
So, but we had the funds. And that was...
It seemed like you had the funds.
Yeah, it seemed like. And that's what I said earlier. We didn't catch it. Someone should have seen... And I was on the board at the time, so I'll take the hit too. Somebody should have seen that there was extra money that we were spending, and we didn't. We failed to do that. So this is a new board. We're looking at everything. We had a meeting again, like I said last night. Heck, they were giving me heck about mustard packs. That's how determined.
Getting down to the fine dimes now.
Eh? I shook my head. So anyways, we're not wasting mustard packs. I can guarantee you that. But the point is, we're looking at everything. What happened before is in the past. Yeah. What we're looking at today and moving forward, that will not happen again. Okay, on our watch, because we're looking at everything, and this board is determined, as I said earlier, to keep our doors open.
Gotcha.
But we can only do so much. We need the funding to do it. It's a fund-based operation. But I want to say again, I can't say this enough. This is a business. We are now running this as a business. And that's what the difference is. I keep using this word. We're wishy-washy. You know, we're loosey-goosey. No, we're not anymore. Okay, we're determined. We're going here. We're looking at our budgets every month. We even do reconciliations every month now. We didn't do that before. And that was not smart on our board's part, but we didn't do it before. Now we're doing that. So
lesson learned then.
Lesson learned. And I'll tell you, this has been a hard lesson to learn, and it's been frustrating from a board's point of view because we don't want to be in this position, but we are, and we're facing it, and we're moving forward. And that's the best I can say. We're moving forward.
Alicia?
Yeah, I would just really like to highlight what our day-to-day is and what we do, because a lot of folks aren't aware of what exactly the Gathering Place is. Like, I don't spend a lot of time on social media just because there's a lot of keyboard warriors that like to go against us, and it's disheartening. But from what I do see, we are stigmatized as we are only feeding the homeless and the addicts, and that's all we do. And again, they are just as deserving. yeah, we feed people, but like we're kind of trying to like adopt like this language of we are a food distribution center. Huge shout out to our grocery stores across North Bay, because every single day they are donating hundreds of pounds of food to us that they can't shelf because it's either about to reach expiry or it came in damaged. So we get a large amount of that food, and we have amazing volunteer drivers who go out and pick that up for us. And then we have a team who sorts through that food. You know, not everything we can keep. So we do have to toss some stuff, but the stuff that we can keep, you know, we keep it for ourselves so we can make these meals for the folks who access the kitchen. But on top of that, we're also distributing that food to church food banks, to group homes, to like different agencies. So we're sharing the wealth that's being shared to us. And so, you know, we're doing that. Last year, our food rescue team went to a seminar at Science North about dinosaurs, and they learned that a brontosaurus weighs 220,000 pounds. And that's about how much food we rescue every year, is 220,000 pounds. So we always like to say we rescue a brontosaurus amount of food every year that would otherwise be destined for the landfill. We're an educational learning center. You know, we take on placement students, culinary students, co-op students. We had 3 nursing students who just wrapped up their semester with us yesterday. We have co-op students from Schollard and from Chippewa who, you know, they want to pursue culinary dreams, so they're getting a very hands-on frontline education with us in the kitchen. Every week we have a group from West Ferris. It's the independent living class. So kids living with special needs or disabilities, they're coming and they're getting that hands-on learning experience from us. You know, they help us around the kitchen and the dining room doing tasks for us. We definitely had to scale back the outreach, but we're looking at ways that we can kind of like reincorporate that into what we're doing to reach the folks beyond the kitchen. You know, right now, currently, we provide 60 meals a week to Out Loud, the LGBTQ Center for Youth, because there's a lot of kids who use that center who are struggling with food insecurity. So we're kind of helping fill that gap. Like, you know, we send boxes of food and also prepared meals for them. We've partnered, we still have our partnership with CMHA. So case managers from CMHA will call us and say, hey, I've got a client who's struggling with food insecurity. Can I come pick up a box from you? Yep, no problem. We put together a box for them. Nipissing University, we're filling, we've helped fill their freezer with pre-made meals, and we also fill their shelves too with whatever extra like pantry items we can spare to them. So, you know, like we have so much opportunity and influence across the city of North Bay for food insecurity. And I really do think it would be a detriment and a downfall if we weren't here because of how many aspects of North Bay like we touch and with what we do. Our chef Stephanie, she's actually working on an infographic showing kind of the impact and that we have and how far our distribution reaches across the city of North Bay, and it's pretty far. We're hitting almost every corner, I think, and I'm really proud of our team and of what we do and of how low barrier and accessible it is for folks. You know, we also had the community garden. Season wrapped up in October. It's a great community space for volunteers, anyone in North Bay who wants to just go in and learn about gardening and get their hands dirty and also take some produce home for themselves. And also we use that produce too again, we share that produce amongst the community and we use it for our own purposes to feed the folks coming through our doors. Unfortunately, with the budget issues that we have been having, you know, the future of the garden is up in the air right now. We are discussing how do we best save the garden and keep it going at a low cost to us. So if anybody has ideas if people would like to see this garden continue, like we're very open to conversation.
How much did it cost to have somebody manage the garden?
Okay, we have one chap that runs it. He manages, so we have to pay him a wage, and it's at least $40,000 a year just to have that, because he comes in early, he gets everything prepared in the garden, he gets the volunteers involved.
Is that still Damien? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
A good guy. Smart guy.
Yeah. It's very.
No, I've done stories
very
with him
smart.
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you need somebody that knows what they're doing to dedicate themselves to it. It's very hard to do on a volunteer basis, for sure.
Correct. And so he does a fantastic job. We just had a meeting about it this morning. There's a cost, and as a board, we decided that we got to look at that cost, because anything over and above where we are, we have to trim that. So that's why we're discussing it now. We want to go to the city people in North Bay, and we want to say, hey, if you want to participate, if you want to be a part of, if you want to help us out, give us some ideas for that garden and what we can do there, and especially how we can trim those costs. There's people out there looking to give money for a good cause, and food insecurity is a hell of a good cause as far as I'm concerned, and that garden's a part of that. So
Yeah, it's
we
a
don't
matter
want
of breaking it up into these pieces where people can say, yeah, I like supporting that.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Right?
Yeah.
So
that's what we're looking for. So we're putting that out there to the people in North Bay, and we're going to. I think we're in January. We're planning to have a meeting of the citizens of North Bay. Come and talk to us. We'll have a meeting at the. We'll have a coffee club or whatever at the gathering place, and we want to hear ideas about how we can make the garden better, how we can grow the garden, and how we can make it successful without the cost.
just to wrap up, because we've covered a lot of the bases, and I appreciate you guys coming in and helping us understand it better. Dave, do you want to wrap it up?
Just thanks to both of you for coming in. Peter, I mean, you and I have had numerous discussions over the last few months, and I mean, from the very beginning, it's been a struggle for this new group coming in, and you as chair. The first thing you got to do is get a handle on how did we get here. And that's been, in our discussions, that was kind of the biggest thing. And it sounds like, just in hearing you speak today and hearing the both of you speak, I mean, you've got a handle on that. Now you've got a game plan in place with the new board and the new leadership, and it seems like you've got your, the expenses in line. You've identified where you need to go, and it's just kudos to everyone because it's such a vital service that you provide, and thanks for highlighting that to us today. And I'd encourage anyone that's donated to the Gathering Place in the past to look them up again, and if you haven't, then please do it, because they do provide a vital service to the citizens of North Bay.
I'm going to take a second. I'm going to throw a challenge out there to Scott Clark and Alan McDonald, and I'll tell you why. Those two really were supporters of ours in the walk in February, end of February, and they were out there and they were grabbing money from everybody. They had huge teams in those days, and they raised a lot of money for us, and it's gone now. So I'm going to put a challenge out to Scott and Al and Dave. You might as well get involved. What the heck? And let's see if we can get some teams out there and grab some money and have some fun that night. So thank you.
So when is the coldest night challenge?
Coldest night of the year is falling on February 22nd.
February 22nd. Well, there you go. The gauntlet's down. Dave is going to coordinate a team to raise money. Excellent.
We launched. We launched December 1st, so get ready.
Well, you're taking Dave's place there. Scott's place. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, you'll have to field that one.
Okay.
Well, anyways, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Well, you've listened to another Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Dave Mendicino.
And I'm Dave Dale.